Widow receives a run-down rancher's payment and discovers a secret in the barn. Rebecca Carter looked at the papers on the kitchen table for the third time that morning, as the bills piled up and the pension money barely covered the rent. A widow for 2 years, with 4 young children to raise alone, she had lost hope when the phone rang with an offer that seemed too good to be true. It was when businessman Douglas Mitchell called about an old debt that her late husband, Daniel, owed to his family. The man offered a ranch in rural Oklahoma as full payment of the debt, with no additional costs. The offer sounded too strange to be true. "You must be wondering why I don't just sell this property instead of offering it as payment," said Douglas on the other end of the line. "The truth is, the place has a few problems, but it could be an opportunity for you and your children to start over." Rebecca pressed the phone to her ear, trying to fully understand what was happening. Daniel had never mentioned any debts to anyone in the Mitchell family, much less talked about ranches or rural properties. They had always lived on the outskirts of Oklahoma City, he working as a truck driver and she as a seamstress. "What kind of problems?" she asked, suspicious. "Well, the main house needs some repairs. The barn is somewhat damaged from a recent storm, and we haven't had working electricity for a few months. But the land is good, there's a well, and with a little work it could yield something." Rebecca's children played in the small living room of the rented apartment. Ethan, 10 years old, tried to do his homework on the coffee table. Emma Grace, 8, helped her younger brother Noah. 6 put together a puzzle with missing pieces. The baby, Oliver, just 2 years old, slept on the old sofa that also served as her bed. The electricity bill was 15 days overdue. The apartment landlord had already warned that if the rent was late one more time, she would have to leave. Options were running out fast. "Mr. Douglas, I don't understand this debt story. My husband never mentioned anything about it to me." "Mrs. Rebecca, I understand your confusion. The truth is, this debt goes way back from when your Daniel was younger. He did some work for my family, and we never quite settled it properly. Now that he's gone, I'd rather clear it all at once and move on." The explanation wasn't entirely convincing, but her desperate situation spoke louder than the doubts. Rebecca looked around the cramped apartment, the children's clothes drying on the makeshift clothesline in the window, the nearly empty refrigerator making a strange noise. "Where exactly is this ranch?" "It's in Guthrie, about 2 hours from Oklahoma City. A quiet place, good for raising children. I can take you to see it tomorrow if you'd like." That night, Rebecca talked to her children about the possibility of moving to the countryside. Ethan, always questioning like his father, wanted to know every detail. Emma Grace showed enthusiasm at the idea of having space to play. Noah was worried if there would be other children nearby. Oliver was too young to understand, but smiled whenever he heard the word farm. "Mom, are you sure this man isn't trying to trick us?" asked Ethan, with the forced maturity he had developed after losing his father. "I'm not sure of anything, son, but we don't have many choices either. If we can't pay the rent next month, we'll have to go live with your grandmother, and you know how cramped it is there." The prospect of crowding into their maternal grandmother's tiny apartment, who was already barely getting by on her retirement, was worse than any uncertainty about the mysterious ranch. The next day, Douglas Mitchell appeared at the door driving an old but well-kept pickup truck. He was a middle-aged man with a serious expression and simple clothes. He didn't seem like the type of person who owned rural properties, but Rebecca had already learned not to judge by appearances. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, please take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot as we're just starting out. Now continuing. During the trip to Guthrie, Douglas said little about the property, deflecting the subject whenever she asked more specific questions. He said his family had acquired several plots of land in the region decades ago, but many were abandoned for lack of time to care for them. "The family grew, everyone went their own way, and we ended up with scattered properties that no one really uses," he explained, keeping his eyes on the road. "It's better that someone lives there and takes care of the place." When they finally arrived at the ranch, Rebecca felt her heart tighten. The situation was even worse than she had imagined. The main house, which must have been white once, was peeling and had several broken roof tiles. Windows without glass were covered with pieces of plywood. The large barn was visibly damaged, with part of the roof collapsed and beams exposed. The surrounding land was vast, with dry pasture stretching as far as the eye could see. A rusty windmill turned slowly in the distance. There was a wooden fence around the property, but many planks were loose or broken. A stone well stood near the house, with a wooden structure over it that had seen better days. "I know it looks scary at first glance," said Douglas, noticing her expression. "But the house structure is solid, it just needs some renovation. The barn can also be fixed. And look at this good land." He bent down and grabbed a handful of dark soil, letting it run through his fingers. It really seemed fertile, different from the parched land she expected to find. Rebecca entered the main house carefully, testing each floorboard before stepping on it. The interior was empty, except for some old furniture covered with dusty sheets. The kitchen had an old wood-burning stove and an iron sink that still worked, although the water came out in a thin, muddy stream. "The well water is clean," Douglas assured her. "It's just a little dirty because it's been sitting for a long time. After a few days of use, it'll go back to normal." There were 4 small bedrooms, enough to accommodate her family, and a spacious living room with a stone fireplace that dominated one wall. The windows, when not covered, offered a view of the pasture and the low mountains in the distance. "Mr. Douglas, can I ask a direct question?" said Rebecca, stopping in the middle of the room. "Why are you giving me this property? It doesn't make sense. If my husband owed money, why not collect from the assets he left?" Douglas hesitated, fidgeting with the hat he held in his hands. "Mrs. Rebecca, I'll be frank with you. This debt isn't just about money. Your Daniel did a very important favor for my family a long time ago, and we were never able to repay it properly. Now that he's gone, I want to do right by his children." The explanation still sounded vague, but there was something in Douglas's voice that conveyed sincerity. Rebecca decided not to press with questions for now. Need was greater than curiosity. "How long do I have to decide?" "As long as you need. But if you decide to accept, I can arrange the papers this very week, and I can help with the move too." During the return to Oklahoma City, Rebecca weighed the pros and cons. The property was in a deplorable state, far from everything and without electricity, but it was a chance to have a roof of their own, space for the children to grow and maybe grow something to sell. That night she gathered the children again for a serious talk. "You saw the pictures I took. The place isn't in good condition. It will take a lot of work to make it livable. But it would be ours. We wouldn't have to pay rent or depend on anyone anymore." Ethan studied the pictures on her phone carefully. "Mom, where will we go to school? What if someone gets sick?" "There's a school in town, about 15 kilometers away, and the hospital in Guthrie isn't far. We'll have to adapt, but a lot of people live like this and manage." Emma Grace was excited about the idea of having a room just for herself, and Noah wanted to know if they could have animals. Oliver just babbled random words, but seemed happy with his siblings' excitement. "What if it doesn't work out?" asked Ethan, always practical. "If it doesn't work out, we'll think of something else, but at least we tried. Staying here waiting for things to get better on their own isn't working either." 3 days later, Rebecca called Douglas accepting the proposal. He seemed satisfied and scheduled a meeting at the notary's office to transfer the property. The papers were all in order, with the deed already prepared. The speed of the documentation surprised her, but she signed everything without question. The move happened the following week. Douglas showed up with a larger pickup truck and helped load the family's few pieces of furniture and belongings. The children were anxious and chatted animatedly during the trip, making plans for the new home. When they arrived at the ranch for the second time, reality hit with full force. Without the novelty of expectation, the place seemed even more abandoned and challenging. Rebecca felt a tightness in her chest, but remembered there was no turning back. "Let's start with the main house," said Douglas, helping to unload the things. "I brought some basic tools and materials to patch the most urgent holes." They spent the rest of the day arranging the few pieces of furniture and trying to make at least 2 bedrooms habitable. Douglas showed them how to light the wood-burning stove and how to regulate the water flow from the well. Before leaving, he left a box with basic supplies and promised to return the following week to see how they were adapting. "If you need anything urgent, there's Mr. Harold who lives on the neighboring property, about 3 kilometers from here. He knows the whole area and can help. The first night at the ranch was a mix of adventure and terror for the children. The silence of the countryside, broken only by the sound of the wind and crickets, was completely different from the urban sounds they were used to. Oliver cried several times, frightened by noises he couldn't identify. Rebecca barely slept, questioning whether she had made the right decision. But when the sun rose and she saw the children exploring the land with enthusiasm, she felt that maybe there was hope. Ethan discovered that the windmill still worked, even though it was a bit rusty. Emma Grace found a perfect tree to climb near the house. Noah was delighted with a frog he found near the well. Oliver ran through the pasture as if it were the first time he had seen so much open space. "Mom, look how cool!" shouted Emma Grace from the top of the tree. "You can see everything from up here." Rebecca smiled, feeling some of the tension dissipate. Maybe the children would adapt faster than she imagined. The first real challenge appeared on the second day, when she tried to take a shower and discovered there was no working shower. The water from the well had to be drawn in buckets and heated on the wood-burning stove. What seemed romantic in theory proved to be laborious and time-consuming in practice. "We'll have to get used to quick baths," she told the children, who complained about the complicated procedure. The lack of electricity also proved more problematic than she had anticipated. Without a refrigerator, perishable foods didn't last long. Without television or video games, the children grew bored in the first hours of the rain. The candles and lanterns they had brought were insufficient to properly light the house after dark. On the third day, Rebecca decided to explore the property better, especially the damaged barn. Perhaps there were useful tools or materials that could help with the necessary repairs. The barn was larger than it seemed from afar. Even with part of the roof collapsed, there was still plenty of usable space. The floor was covered in debris, dry leaves, and pieces of wood. Thick wooden beams supported the structure, and some still seemed solid enough to be reused. While clearing away the more superficial debris, Rebecca found old tools buried under the leaves. There were hammers, pliers, screwdrivers, and other utensils that could be useful. They were rusty but still functional after a cleaning. It was while digging deeper among the rubble that she found something unexpected. A rusty metal box about the size of a shoebox was partially buried under pieces of wood and dirt. It was locked with an old padlock and weighed more than she expected. "Boys, come see what I found!" she shouted to the children who were playing near the house. Ethan was the first to arrive, followed by the others. They all crowded around the mysterious box, speculating about what it might contain. "Could it be treasure?" asked Noah, his eyes shining with curiosity. "It might be important documents or old coins," suggested Ethan, always more rational. Emma Grace wanted to open it immediately, but the padlock was very sturdy. Rebecca decided to take the box to the house and try to open it calmly, using the tools she had found. That night, after putting the children to sleep, she worked on the box by candlelight. The old padlock finally gave way after much effort, with a pair of pliers and a screwdriver. What she found inside left her completely confused. There were old documents, some dated more than 15 years ago, with the name Daniel clearly visible in the signatures, contracts, receipts, and handwritten notes she had never seen before. One of the papers mentioned a partnership in a business she knew nothing about, but it was a handwritten letter, folded carefully and kept in a yellowed envelope, that intrigued her the most. The handwriting was Daniel's, without a doubt, but the words were addressed to a woman named Amanda. "My dear Amanda, I know it's hard for you to understand my situation, but I need you to know that my feelings are true. I am building our future, our special place where we can be happy." Rebecca read the letter 3 times, trying to process what she was seeing. Daniel writing about love to another woman, mentioning plans she never knew existed. The date on the letter was just 5 years ago, when they were still married and she was pregnant with Oliver. Her hands trembled as she searched for more letters or documents that could explain that situation. She found receipts for regular bank transfers to an account she didn't recognize, always for the same amounts, always on the same date each month. One of the contracts specifically mentioned the ranch where they now lived. Daniel had invested money in the property together with someone named Elle Mitchell, presumably the same Amanda from the letter. The discovery left her devastated and confused. Daniel had maintained a parallel life she had never suspected. The husband, who had mourned every day for the past 2 years, apparently had secrets that completely changed the image she had of him. She couldn't sleep that night. She kept ruminating on the implications of what she had discovered, trying to remember if there had been signs she had ignored. Daniel had always been very private about work, and she respected that, thinking it was just professional discretion. Now she realized that the frequent trips he took for work might not have been exactly what she thought. The prolonged absences, the phone calls he took in private, the extra money he sometimes brought home without detailed explanation. The next morning, the children noticed she was different, quieter and more thoughtful than usual. Ethan, always observant, asked if she was okay. "I'm just tired, son. I slept poorly because of the cricket noise." But Emma Grace, with the typical intuition of girls, insisted, "Mum, you look sad. Is it because of the box you found yesterday?" "It's nothing, sweetie. They're just old papers, boring adult stuff." Rebecca decided to keep the discovery a secret until she understood the situation better. It made no sense to worry the children with matters she herself couldn't fully comprehend yet. In the following days, she continued exploring the barn and other corners of the property, looking for more clues about Daniel's secret life. She found some tools with engraved initials that weren't his, women's clothes forgotten in an old trunk, and a faded photograph of Daniel with a woman she didn't recognize. The woman in the photo was pretty, with long hair and a radiant smile. She and Daniel appeared hugging in front of the very barn, but at a time when it was in perfect condition. The photo seemed to have been taken a few years ago during a sunny, happy day. On the back of the photograph, someone had written, "Our first day in our home, Daniel and Amanda, May 2018. The discovery was like a punch to the gut. In May 2018, she was pregnant with Oliver, and Daniel was supposedly traveling frequently for work. In reality, he was building a parallel life with another woman on the ranch she now called home." The puzzle pieces were beginning to fit together in a painful way. Douglas Mitchell was probably related to this Amanda, maybe a brother or cousin. Daniel's debt to the family wasn't financial but emotional. He had promised something to Amanda that he couldn't fulfill. Anger and sadness mixed in proportions she had never experienced before. Daniel wasn't just a husband who had left too soon, but a man who had lived a lie for years, deceiving 2 families at the same time. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, please take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot as we're just starting out. Now continuing. Rebecca was organizing the documents she found when she heard the sound of a car approaching. Through the window, she saw an unfamiliar pickup truck stopping in front of the house. An elderly man got out of the vehicle and walked toward the door. "Good afternoon, ma'am," he greeted, tipping his hat. "I'm Harold Thompson, a neighbor from around here. Douglas Mitchell asked me to stop by and see how you all are settling in." Rebecca received the man cordially, offering coffee and introducing the children. Mr. Harold seemed like a simple and honest person, with the typical accent of the region and the polite manners of long-time country folks. "This place used to be very beautiful," he commented, observing the house and surroundings. Her shame it was abandoned for so long. "Do you know the history of the property?" asked Rebecca, trying to sound casual. Mr. Harold hesitated for a moment, as if carefully choosing his words. "Well, I know it belonged to the Mitchell family for many years. Douglas inherited several lands from his father, but he never had much interest in living out here. Prefers the city." "And was it always abandoned?" "Not exactly. There was a time, a few years back, when people came here frequently. A young couple was renovating the place, making plans, but then they stopped showing up, and it stayed the way it was when you arrived." Rebecca's heart raced. Mr. Harold was talking about Daniel and Amanda, unaware he was revealing painful secrets. "Did you ever get to know that couple?" "Know them, no, but I saw them a few times. He was a tall, dark-haired young man, always very polite when we passed on the road. She was a pretty young woman, seemed to really like the place. They worked hard in the barn, seemed to have big plans. Do you know why they stopped coming?" Mr. Harold scratched his grey beard, thoughtful. "I'm not sure. I heard he had some problems, got sick or something. After that, they never showed up again. Douglas mentioned once that the situation had gotten complicated." Rebecca thanked him for the information, but was even more disturbed by the revelations. Daniel had brought Amanda to that place. They made plans together, worked side by side to build a future she never knew existed. After Mr. Harold left, she returned to the barn with renewed determination to find more clues. If Daniel had built a parallel life there must be more evidence hidden. It was while searching in more hidden corners that she discovered a partially blocked entrance at the back of the barn. Wood and debris hid what appeared to be a passage to a basement or underground space. With the help of Ethan, who was always eager to explore new places, she managed to remove the obstacles and discovered a wooden staircase descending to an underground space. "Mom, do you think it's safe to go down there?" asked Ethan, shining a flashlight down the stairs. "Let's see, but you stay up here in case I need help." The basement was smaller than she expected, but well preserved. Daniel had transformed that space into a kind of secret office. There was a simple desk, some chairs, and several shelves with organized documents. But what caught her attention the most were dozens of love letters carefully stored in separate boxes, all handwritten by Daniel, addressed to the same Amanda. The dates covered a period of 4 years, always at regular intervals. Rebecca read some of the letters, feeling a mix of pain and fascination. Daniel wrote passionately about shared dreams, about the future they planned together, about how their love was special and true. A letter dated December 2019 said, "Amanda, my love, I know you're tired of waiting, but we need just a little more patience. Soon I'll be able to sort out the whole situation and we can get married as we dreamed. This place will be our home, where we'll raise our children far from all the complications." Another letter from March 2020 revealed more details. "My dear, I've discovered I'm sick, but you don't need to worry. I'll take care of everything and get our life in order. The ranch will be yours, our house will be yours. You'll be free to be happy the way you always wanted." The letters revealed that Daniel knew he was sick long before he told his official family. He had hidden the diagnosis for months, apparently trying to organize his double life before passing. The last letter in the collection was from August 2021, a few months before Daniel passed away. "Amanda, my eternal love, if you're reading this, it's because I'm already gone. I know I promised to marry you and that I failed. Forgive me for not having the courage to leave my family before. This place is rightfully yours. Our dream must continue. Douglas knows what to do. I love you more than life itself." Rebecca read the letter several times, trying to process the revelation that Daniel had planned his own succession, ensuring Amanda would inherit the ranch after his departure. But then, why had Douglas given the property to her? The confusion grew when she found legal documents at the bottom of one of the boxes. There were 2 versions of a will, both apparently valid. In one, Daniel left all his assets to his wife and legitimate children. In the other, he left the ranch specifically to Amanda Mitchell. The documents had different dates, and it wasn't clear which was the final valid version. It seemed Daniel had changed his mind several times in the last months of his life, unable to decide how to resolve the impossible situation he had created. Rebecca came up from the basement with a terrible headache and a broken heart. The image she had of her marriage had been completely shattered. Daniel was not the dedicated and honest man she thought she knew. The children noticed her mood, and Ethan approached with concern. "Mom, did you find more bad things down there?" She hugged him, trying not to cry in front of him. "I found some of your father's things that made me sad, but it's nothing you need to worry about." "Did Daddy do something wrong?" asked Emma Grace, always direct. Rebecca hesitated. How to explain to children that the father they loved and admired had lied to everyone for years? "Your father was a complicated person, sweetheart. He loved us very much, but he also made some mistakes that I'm only discovering now." "Did he have other children?" asked Ethan, showing surprising maturity. The question caught her off guard. How had Ethan come to that conclusion? "Why do you ask that?" "Because you're acting like that soap opera Grandma used to watch when the wife found out her husband had another family, and because you found hidden papers that made you sad." Rebecca realized she wouldn't be able to hide the truth from Ethan for long. He was too smart and too observant. "Your father had a special friend, someone he liked very much, and who liked this place. I don't know if she has children, but I know they made plans together. And is that why we're living here? Because this place isn't really ours? Ethan continued, deducing. No, son. This place is ours now. It's in my name. But I think we're here because your father wanted us to take care of the dream he couldn't fulfill. The explanation seemed to satisfy the children for now, but Rebecca knew she would have to face more difficult questions soon. And most importantly, she would have to decide what to do with the information she had discovered. Would it be fair to keep the ranch, knowing Daniel had promised it to another woman? Did Amanda have rights to the property? And where was this mysterious woman now? The next morning, the answer to some of these questions arrived unexpectedly. Rebecca was hanging clothes on the makeshift clothesline when she saw a woman walking down the dirt road toward the property. She was young, perhaps 10 years younger than her, with long hair and simple clothes. She carried a small suitcase and looked tired. When the woman approached, Rebecca immediately recognized the face from the photograph found in the barn. It was Amanda Mitchell, the woman from Daniel's love letters. "Excuse me," said Amanda, stopping near the gate. "Are you the new resident here?" "Yes, I'm Rebecca Carter. How can I help you?" Amanda hesitated, looking at the house and then at the barn with an expression of nostalgia and pain. "I'm Amanda Mitchell. This place was very important to me once. I came to get some things I left here." Rebecca felt her blood run cold. The moment she had somewhat expected but hoped wouldn't happen was materializing right in front of her. "What kind of things?" she asked, trying to keep her voice steady. "Letters, photographs, personal mementos. My boyfriend used to keep our things here. He passed away 2 years ago, and I've only just found the courage to come get what's left of us." The meeting that followed was one of the most difficult in Rebecca's life. The two women sat on the porch of the house, each trying to process the impossible situation they found themselves in. "Daniel never told me he was married," revealed Amanda, tears in her eyes. "He always said he lived alone, that he had lost his family in an accident. I only discovered the truth when he got sick and started to ramble in the hospital." "What hospital?" asked Rebecca, confused. "The hospital in Guthrie. He was admitted here for 2 weeks before he passed. I took care of him all those days, thinking I was his only family." The revelation was like a new blow. Daniel had spent the last 2 weeks of his life with Amanda, not with his official family. Rebecca had been told he was receiving treatment in Oklahoma City, but in reality he was being cared for by his mistress in a small town. "How did you find out about me and the children?" she managed to ask. He rambled a lot because of the medication. He spoke of Ethan, Emma Grace, Noah, Oliver. At first I thought they were friends or distant relatives, but then he started apologizing, saying he had failed his real family. Amanda told her that she had confronted Daniel about the people he mentioned in his delirium. It was then, knowing he was near the end, that he confessed the whole truth about his double life. "He cried a lot when he told me about you all. He said he loved everyone, but that he had fallen in love with me and didn't know how to fix the situation. He was trying to find a way to be with me without hurting you." "And you? How did you feel when you found out?" asked Rebecca. "I was devastated. I realized our whole life had been a lie, that I was the other woman, even without knowing it, that I had helped destroy a family without meaning to." The two women cried together, united by the pain of having been deceived by the same man. Each, in her own way, had lost the Daniel she knew, discovering that he had never really existed. "Amanda, I need to tell you something," Rebecca said after a while. "I found your letters, your photos, your plans together. I know this place was your shared dream with him. And now it's yours. Douglas explained to me that Daniel left the property to his official family. That's as it should be. But you have rights too. There were 2 wills, and in one of them, this place was yours." Amanda seemed surprised by the information. "Douglas never told me about 2 wills. He only said that Daniel had chosen to do the right thing and leave everything to his legitimate wife and children." The conversation was interrupted when the children returned from exploring the pasture. Seeing a strange woman talking to their mother, they became curious and shy. "Children, this is Amanda. She knew your father and came to get some of his things." Ethan, always observant, studied Amanda carefully. Emma Grace hid behind her mother, but Noah and Oliver seemed to accept the visitor's presence naturally. "Were you dating my dad?" asked Ethan, getting straight to the point. Amanda looked at Rebecca, silently asking for permission to answer. "Yes, Ethan. I liked your father very much, and he liked me too, but he never told me he had such a beautiful family as you." "So my dad lied to you too?" continued Ethan. "Yeah, he lied to all of us. But that doesn't mean he didn't love you. People sometimes do wrong things even when they love." The maturity of Amanda's answer impressed Rebecca. That woman could have shown herself to be resentful or jealous, but she was being kind and honest with the children. Emma Grace came out from behind her mother and approached Amanda. "Are you pregnant?" she asked, noticing something the others hadn't yet. Amanda blushed and instinctively placed a hand on her stomach. "Yes, sweetie, it's still very early." The silence that followed was deafening. Rebecca processed the implication of the revelation. Daniel had left another child on the way, a child who would be born fatherless. Is it Daniel's child?" asked Rebecca, her voice almost a whisper. Amanda nodded, tears welling in her eyes again. "I found out 2 weeks after he left. I was still trying to figure out how to tell him when I learned he had passed away." The situation had grown exponentially more complicated. Now it wasn't just about 2 women who had loved the same man, but about 2 families who shared the same father. "Do you have a place to stay? Family to help you?" asked Rebecca, concerned despite all the emotional turmoil. "I have my parents in Guthrie, but they were very disappointed when they learned of the situation. They think I should have been more careful. Douglas has been helping me, but he has his own family to care for." Rebecca looked at the children who were watching the conversation with curiosity. A decision began to form in her mind, even if it seemed impossible to accept. "Amanda, would you like to come inside and talk more? The children can play outside while we talk about all of this." During the following hours, the 2 women shared their complete stories. Rebecca told of the years of marriage with Daniel, the financial struggles, the pain of widowhood. Amanda spoke of how she met Daniel, the plans they made together, the pain of discovering it was all a lie. Gradually, the 2 realized they had more in common than they imagined. Both had been hard-working and dedicated. Both had sacrificed much for love. Both had been deceived by the same man they swore they loved. "You know what hurts the most," said Amanda. "It's that our love story was beautiful, but it was built on a lie. Everything we lived together was false because he was never truly free to love me." "I understand that feeling," replied Rebecca. "My marriage feels false now too. How can I be sure he ever really loved me, if he was capable of loving someone else at the same time? I think he loved us both in his own way. Daniel wasn't a bad person, he was a lost person who didn't know how to make the right choices." The conversation was interrupted when they heard Ethan shouting outside. The 2 women ran to see what was happening and found the boy standing near the barn, looking at a man who had just arrived by car. It was Douglas Mitchell, but he wasn't alone. There was an older woman with him, and both seemed tense. "Amanda, what are you doing here?" asked Douglas, clearly annoyed. "I came to get my things, as you promised I could do." "I said I would speak with the new owner first. You can't just show up like this without warning." The older woman stepped forward and addressed Rebecca directly. "Ma'am, I am Dorothy Mitchell, Joachim's mother and Amanda's aunt. I need to speak with you about this property." The woman's authoritative tone immediately put Rebecca on the defensive. "How can I help you, Mrs. Dorothy? This land has belonged to our family for 3 generations. My husband left it to our children when he passed, and now we've discovered it was transferred to you without our knowledge. We've come to resolve this situation." Douglas seemed uncomfortable with his mother's approach, but did not interrupt her. "The transfer was done legally. I have all the documents," replied Rebecca, feeling attacked. "Legal perhaps, but not moral," continued Mrs. Dorothy. "Douglas acted on impulse without consulting the family. This land has sentimental value to us." Amanda stepped into the discussion. "Aunt Dorothy, it's not her fault. Daniel promised to leave this place to me, but he also promised to take care of his official family. Douglas was trying to do what he thought was right. And you, young lady, should have more dignity than to get involved with a married man. You've brought shame on our entire family." Rebecca saw Amanda pale at her aunt's attack and felt an unexpected anger. "Excuse me, Mrs. Dorothy, but Amanda didn't know Daniel was married. She was deceived just like I was. If there's anyone to blame in this story, it's him, not us." Rebecca's unexpected defense surprised everyone, including herself. Just a few hours ago, she had only just met Amanda, and now she was defending the woman who had been her husband's mistress. "Regardless of who is at fault, I need this land back," declared Mrs. Dorothy. "We are offering fair compensation for the move and for the improvements you've already made." "And if I don't want to sell?" asked Rebecca. "Then we'll have to settle this in court. We have documents that prove Douglas had no right to dispose of this property without family consultation." The legal threat left Rebecca shaken. She had no money to hire lawyers, nor any knowledge of legal matters. If the Mitchells challenged the transfer in court, she could lose everything and still be left in debt. Ethan approached his mother and took her hand, sensing the tension of the situation. "I'll give you 1 week to consider our proposal," said Mrs. Dorothy. "After that, we will take the necessary measures." After the Mitchells left, Rebecca and Amanda sat on the porch processing what had happened. The children were playing nearby, but were clearly worried about the argument they had witnessed. "I'm sorry they threatened you because of me," said Amanda. "Maybe it's best if I leave and don't come back." "No, Amanda. The problem isn't you. It's this whole crazy situation that Daniel created. He promised the same thing to different people and left all of us to sort out the mess. But you're right to keep this place. You were the legitimate wife, the mother of his children. I was just the other woman." Rebecca looked at Amanda, seeing for the first time not a rival, but a woman who was suffering as much as she was. "Amanda, can I ask you a personal question?" "Of course." "Are you in a position to raise this child alone? Will your parents help you?" "Honestly, I don't know. My parents are disappointed in me, and I work as a teacher at a small school. The salary barely covers my own expenses, let alone with a child. And Douglas, did he offer any help?" "Douglas is willing, but his whole family is pressuring him because of this situation. He's already done more than he should have." Rebecca was thoughtful for a few minutes, watching the children play. Oliver was chasing a chicken that had appeared out of nowhere, laughing heartily. Emma, Grace, and Noah were building a mud house near the well. Ethan was reading a book under the tree. "Amanda, I'm going to make a proposal that might sound crazy, but I want you to consider it." "What kind of proposal?" "What if you stayed here with us, at least until the baby is born? You could help us with the renovations and we would help you with the pregnancy." Amanda looked at Rebecca as if she had lost her mind. "Rebecca, are you serious? You want your husband's mistress to live in your house? You weren't a mistress, you were another victim, and this house is big enough for all of us. Besides, if the Mitchell family tries to take the property through the courts, maybe it's better to have allies than enemies." The proposal had come spontaneously, but it made sense in several ways. Amanda knew the property, had experience with renovations, and would be an important witness regarding Daniel's original intentions. Furthermore, Rebecca felt a strange solidarity with that woman. "I don't know, Rebecca. People in the area will speak very ill of us living together. People are going to talk badly anyway. At least this way we can face whatever comes next together." Ethan looked up from his book and approached the two women. "Mum, if she's going to live here, is the baby she's expecting going to be our brother?" The innocent question touched both women's hearts. Technically, the child would be Rebecca's children's half-sibling, but the situation was too complex to explain to a child. "It would be a family baby, Ethan, someone for us to care for and love." "I'd like to have a baby brother," said the boy, smiling at Amanda. "And you seem nice. You're not like the evil stepmothers in the movies." "Amanda wouldn't be your stepmother, son. She'd be our special friend." For the rest of the day, the two women talked about the possibility of sharing the house. Amanda was hesitant but clearly tempted by the idea. Rebecca realized her own proposal wasn't just altruism. She really needed help managing the property and the children. "If we're going to do this, we need clear rules," said Rebecca. "About space, responsibilities, raising the children." "I agree. And we need to be honest with each other about our feelings." It's going to be hard to get past all this resentment toward Daniel. Maybe it's easier to get past it together than apart. That night, after the children were asleep, Amanda agreed to stay for at least a few weeks to help sort out the legal situation and decide the property's future. The first week of living together was strange and uncomfortable. The two women made an effort to be cordial, but there was tension in the air. The children, on the other hand, accepted Amanda with the typical ease of childhood. Emma Grace especially liked the new company, perhaps missing having a younger female figure around. Noah was fascinated by the stories Amanda told about plants and animals. She had studied biology before becoming a teacher. Oliver simply loved having one more person to pay attention to him. Ethan maintained a respectful distance, observing the household dynamics with his early maturity. Occasionally, he asked direct questions that made the adults uncomfortable. "Amanda, did you really love my dad, or was it just for the money?" he asked during dinner one night. "Ethan," Rebecca scolded. "No, it's okay," said Amanda. "It's a fair question. Ethan, I loved your father very much, so much that when I found out he had another family, my heart was broken. It wasn't for money because I didn't know he had money." "Then why did he do this to us?" "I don't know, sweetheart. Grown-ups sometimes do things they can't even explain to themselves." Amanda's honesty began to break down the barriers between her and the children. Rebecca noticed that her presence was actually helping the children process the loss of their father and the complicated things they had discovered about him. It was during the second week that the next twist happened. Rebecca and Amanda were organizing the secret basement in the barn when they found documents that completely changed their understanding of the situation. Among Daniel's papers was correspondence with a lawyer from Washington discussing bigamy and partnership dissolution issues. "Rebecca, look at this," said Amanda, showing an official letter. "Daniel was trying to legally divorce you, but there were complications because he could never locate you to notify you." "What do you mean, locate me? We lived in the same house." "No, look at the date. This letter is from 2 years before you found out he was sick. Apparently, he had changed his official address to here at the ranch and was trying to file for divorce, claiming abandonment of the marital home." Rebecca read the document several times, trying to understand. Daniel had tried to divorce her without her knowledge, changing official documents to make it harder for her to be legally notified. "Does this mean our marriage is officially over?" she asked, confused. "It seems it was never finalized. The lawyer wrote that a new attempt at notification would be necessary, but Daniel apparently gave up on the process after he got sick. The discovery was disturbing for several reasons. Daniel had not only maintained a double life, but had actively tried to dissolve his first family to legalize the second. The man she thought she knew was even stranger and more calculating than she had imagined. "There's more here," said Amanda, searching through other documents. "Partnership contracts, business records." "Rebecca, your husband had a company registered here at the property. They discovered that Daniel had created a rural transport company using the ranch as its headquarters. The company was registered in his name and Amanda's as partners. There were contracts with farms in the region for transporting agricultural products. "I signed these papers thinking they were documents for the house renovation," said Amanda, recognizing her own signature. "Daniel said it was just to get bank loans more easily. So you were business partners, even without being officially married." The company had moved considerable sums in the last years of Daniel's life. The bank statements showed regular deposits and cash withdrawals that coincided with the times he would show up at home with extra money. "Rebecca, this means half of this company is mine and half is yours, since you were his wife when it was created. But you're the one who signed as a partner. Legally, you have more rights than I do." The two women realized the legal situation was even more complicated than they had imagined. It wasn't just about a rural property, but an active company with contracts and responsibilities. "We need a lawyer to understand all this," said Rebecca. "We do, but with what money? And how do we explain this whole situation to a stranger?" It was Ethan who suggested the solution, once again showing his surprising maturity. "Mom, why don't you look for Dr. Benjamin? He's a lawyer and was Dad's friend. If anyone can understand this whole mess, it's him." Benjamin Parker had been Daniel's colleague back when he worked for a large transport company. Later, he graduated in law and opened an office in Oklahoma City. Daniel always spoke fondly of him, and Rebecca knew he was a trustworthy person. The following week, the two women went to Oklahoma City to consult Benjamin, taking all the documents they had found. The lawyer listened to the whole story with an increasingly surprised expression. "Rebecca, I'm so sorry you're going through this. Daniel always seemed like an upright man to me. I never imagined he was capable of such a situation." "Dr. Benjamin, the legal situation is very complicated. We don't even know who has rights to what." Benjamin analyzed the documents for a few hours while they waited. When he finally returned to the meeting room, his expression was serious. "The situation is complex, but not impossible to resolve. You have several options, depending on what you want to achieve." He explained that the company did indeed belong to Daniel and Amanda, but that Rebecca had rights as a widow to half of her husband's assets. The rural property was legally transferred to Rebecca, but the Mitchells could challenge the transfer if they proved that Douglas did not have the authority to do it. The best solution would be for the two of you to become official partners in both the company and the property. This would avoid future disputes and provide a legal basis to face any challenge from the Mitchell family. "But that would mean we'd be officially tied together forever," said Amanda. "Only commercially. You could dissolve the partnership later if you wanted. But for now it would be the safest way to protect the rights of both." Rebecca and Amanda asked for some time to think about the proposal. It was an important decision that would affect not only them but also the children. During the ride back to the ranch, they talked about the implications of the decision. "Rebecca, are you sure you want to officially partner with me? We barely know each other, and our history is very complicated." "Amanda, in these last few days, I've learned more about you than I learned about Daniel in years of marriage. You are honest, hard-working, and you care about my children. Those are qualities I value more than kinship or shared history." "But what if it doesn't work out? What if we end up fighting and complicating the situation even more? Then at least we tried to do the right thing, and if it works, maybe we can build something good out of all this mess." When they arrived at the ranch, a surprise was waiting for them. Mrs. Dorothy Mitchell was on the porch of the house talking to the children, who seemed uncomfortable with her presence. "Where were you?" she asked in an accusatory tone. "You left these children alone for hours." "The children are under the care of Mr. Harold, who lives nearby," replied Rebecca, trying to stay calm. "We told them we were going out and would be back in the afternoon. Even so, it's irresponsible. Being a single mother is hard enough. An irresponsible single mother is even worse." Amanda stepped forward before Rebecca could answer. "Aunt Dorothy, you have no right to judge how Rebecca takes care of her children. She is a dedicated mother, and the children are very well cared for. And you, girl, shouldn't be here giving your opinion. Your presence is causing problems for everyone." Ethan, who had witnessed the argument, approached the group. "You are bothering my mother. Please leave." "Rude boy. I see that on top of everything, the education here leaves something to be desired." Rebecca felt the anger rising, but before she could answer, Amanda took the lead again. "Aunt Dorothy, what exactly did you come here for? Because if it was to insult and threaten, you can leave right now." "I came to bring a new proposal. My family has decided to increase the offer for the property. We are offering double the initial amount, plus moving expenses." "And if we don't accept," asked Rebecca, "then we will file a lawsuit in court tomorrow, and you can be sure we have the resources for a long legal battle." Rebecca looked at Amanda and saw determination in the other woman's eyes. Both knew what they had to do. "Mrs. Dorothy, you can file as many lawsuits as you want. This property is not for sale, and we have our own lawyers to defend us." "Your own lawyers?" laughed Mrs. Dorothy with disdain. "With what money will you pay for expensive lawyers?" "With the money from the company your husband and Amanda created together, which has been generating steady profit for years," said Rebecca, improvising based on information she wasn't entirely sure about. Mrs. Dorothy's expression changed immediately. It was clear she didn't know all the details of Daniel's business. "What company?" "The Rural Transport Company registered on this property, with active contracts and regular bank activity. Amanda is an officially registered partner." Mrs. Dorothy looked at Amanda with an expression somewhere between surprise and anger. You never told me about any company. Because you never asked. You only wanted to know about feelings and property. You were never interested in the practical aspects of my life with Daniel. The discovery of the company clearly changed the dynamics of the situation. Mrs. Dorothy realized she had underestimated the legal complexity of the case. This changes nothing. Douglas had no right to dispose of the property without family consultation. Maybe so, said Rebecca. But now we are official partners in a profitable company, and we have contracts to fulfill. The property is our base of operations. Any legal interference could harm an active business. The implied threat was clear. If the Mitchells questioned the property, they could be interfering with a legal commercial activity, which would complicate any lawsuit. Mrs. Dorothy left without saying goodbye, clearly frustrated with the direction the situation was taking. After her departure, Rebecca and Amanda looked at each other and began to laugh, releasing the tension from the confrontation. Rebecca, you were brilliant. We didn't even really know how this company works, but you made it seem like we're experienced businesswomen. I've learned that sometimes it's better to appear stronger than you are. But now we have to quickly figure out how this company really works. In the following days, the two dove into the company documents, trying to understand the contracts and responsibilities they had inherited. They discovered that Daniel had built a modest but efficient rural transport operation. There were contracts with 5 farms in the region for regular product transportation. The biggest contract was with a vegetable farm that supplied products to supermarkets in Oklahoma City. Daniel made 3 trips a week, transporting fresh greens. The contract was valid for another year and guaranteed significant monthly income. The problem is we don't have a truck to fulfill these contracts, said Amanda, analyzing the papers. What truck did Daniel use? He had his own truck, but he sold it a few months before he got sick. He said it had mechanical problems and it was better to rent when needed. Rebecca remembered that Daniel had indeed sold his truck, but at the time he said it was to pay off debts. Now she realized he was liquidating assets to simplify the financial situation before he passed. So we need a truck to keep the company running, and someone who knows how to drive a truck and knows the routes. It was Ethan who gave the next useful suggestion. Mum, Noah's uncle from school has a truck and is unemployed. Maybe he can help us. Wayne Thompson was the younger brother of the teacher at the school where Ethan studied. He was an experienced truck driver, but had been without steady work for a few months. When Rebecca and Amanda explained the situation to him, he seemed interested in the proposal. I can rent my truck to you and even drive if you want. I know all these routes. I've worked for some of these farms before. The partnership with Wayne solved the immediate transport problem, but created new questions. How to split the profits, how to organize the operation, how to ensure everyone did their part. Amanda, with her background in education, turned out to be surprisingly good with numbers and organization. Rebecca, with her experience as a self-employed seamstress, understood dealing with clients and deadlines. Together, they restructured the company, creating a clearer and more efficient operating system than Daniel had established. "Hey, you know what's funny?" said Rebecca as they organized the financial spreadsheets. "Daniel created this company to support the two of you, but now it's supporting the entire family he left behind. It's as if he foresaw that his 2 families would end up meeting and would need to work together. Or maybe he just created such a mess that the only way out was for us to unite to solve it." The company began to run better than when Daniel managed it alone. Amanda's organization and Rebecca's determination created an efficiency that impressed the clients. Mr. Henry, the owner of the vegetable farm, commented during a delivery. "Mrs. Rebecca, I don't know what you did, but the service has improved a lot. The products arrive more organized and always on time. It was Amanda who organized everything. She has a knack for these things. And you two running this business on your own, it's admirable. Daniel would be proud to see how you've carried on his work." The positive feedback from clients gave the two of them the confidence to expand the operation. They secured 2 more small contracts and began planning to purchase a second truck. It was during this period of relative prosperity that the next complication appeared. Rebecca was in town buying supplies when she noticed an older woman staring at her intently. When their eyes met, the woman approached. "Sorry to bother you, but aren't you the widow of Daniel Thompson?" "Yes, I'm Rebecca. How can I help you?" My name is Linda Harrison. I was a friend of Daniel's many years ago. I heard he passed away, and I was very sad. Rebecca felt a familiar knot in her stomach. Another woman who knew Daniel in a special way. What kind of friend? Linda hesitated, clearly uncomfortable. Well, we were sweethearts when we were younger before he married you, but we kept in touch over the years. He would help me financially sometimes. Help how? My daughter has a disability and needs expensive treatments. Daniel would deposit money into my account every month to help with the medical bills. Rebecca processed the information. Another person receiving regular money from Daniel without her knowledge. How many others were there? Mrs. Linda, when was the last time you received this help? 2 months before he died. Then never again. I tried calling his phone, but it was disconnected. Your daughter is she Daniel's child too? The direct question made Linda visibly nervous. No. She's from my ex-husband. But Daniel was always very generous. He said he wanted to help because he cared for me. The answer didn't fully convince Rebecca, but she decided not to press the matter for now. Mrs. Linda, leave your phone number with me. I'll talk to other people involved in Daniel's affairs and see if we can resume that help. On the drive back to the ranch, Rebecca reflected on how many secrets Daniel still kept. Each discovery revealed new layers of his double, triple, or quadruple life. When she told Amanda about the encounter, the other woman didn't seem surprised. Daniel was always very generous with people who were going through hard times. It was one of the things that most attracted me to him. But don't you find it strange that he gave money every month to an old girlfriend without telling me? Honestly, Rebecca, after everything we've discovered, nothing about Daniel surprises me anymore. He was too complex for us to fully understand. Do you think we should help this, Linda? If the company is making a profit and we can afford it, why not? Daniel must have had his reasons for helping her. Amanda's generosity continued to surprise Rebecca. Even as one of the victims of Daniel's lies, she maintained a charitable view of him. They decided to resume the payments to Linda, but at a smaller amount than Daniel used to send. It was a gesture that honored his memory, even if they didn't fully understand the motivations. It was a few weeks later, when Amanda began to look more visibly pregnant, that the next revelation happened. During a medical checkup in Guthrie, the doctor asked a casual question that changed everything. Amanda, do you have a family history of twin pregnancies? Twins? Why do you ask? From the ultrasound exams, it looks like you're expecting 2 babies. Amanda was in shock. Rebecca, who had gone along to the appointment, also couldn't react immediately. Are you sure, doctor? Asked Rebecca. Almost certain. We'll do a more detailed exam to confirm, but from the heartbeats and the size of the belly, everything indicates a twin pregnancy. During the ride back to the ranch, Amanda was visibly shaken. Rebecca, how am I going to raise 2 babies alone? It was already hard to think about one. You won't raise them alone, we will help, but it's not your responsibility. You're already doing much more than you should. Amanda, these children will be siblings to my children. Of course, it's my responsibility too. The prospect of twins changed many of the plans they were making. The house would need more adaptations. The business would have to be even more profitable to support a larger family, and the emotional issues would become even more complex. When they told the children about the twins, the reactions were varied. Ethan was worried about practical matters. Where would everyone sleep? How would they get money for so many people? Emma Grace was excited. She had always wanted baby siblings, and 2 would be even better. Noah wanted to know if he could choose the babies' names. Oliver, now 3 years old, didn't fully understand but liked the idea of no longer being the youngest in the family. Do you think my father knew there were going to be 2 babies? Asked Ethan. I don't know, son. Your father passed away before we knew Amanda was pregnant. I think he knew, declared Emma Grace with the typical conviction of children. Daddy always liked surprises. Emma Grace's innocent words touched the 2 women deeply. Indeed, Daniel had always liked surprises, though not all of them had been pleasant. It was while deciding practical matters about the babies that Rebecca and Amanda realized how close they had become. Discussions about names, preparations, and organizing the house flowed naturally, as if they were a real family planning together. "You know what's funny?" Amanda said one night, as they sorted through baby clothes donated by neighbors. "A month ago, we were strangers who hated each other because of the same man. Now we're business partners and almost co-mothers. Sometimes the most impossible situations yield the most unexpected results. Daniel managed something he never imagined. He united all of his families into one." The reflection was true. The mess created by Daniel had forced people who would never have met to become an unconventional yet functional family. The next twist came when they least expected it. Douglas Mitchell appeared at the ranch on a Saturday morning, but this time he was alone and seemed nervous. "Rebecca, Amanda, I need to talk to you about something important. If it's about your mother wanting the property back, we already said it's not for sale," said Rebecca. "It's not about that. It's about Daniel. I found out some things you need to know." They sat on the porch while the children played in the pasture, far enough away not to hear the conversation. "I haven't been completely honest with you from the start. The story of the debt Daniel had with my family, it's more complicated than I said." "Complicated how?" asked Amanda. "Daniel didn't owe money to us. In fact, we owed favors to him. Many favors." Douglas recounted that Daniel had helped the Mitchell family in a difficult legal situation years ago. A labor lawsuit that could have destroyed the family's main farm was resolved thanks to witnesses Daniel managed to find. "My father was desperate. He was going to lose the farm our grandfather had built. Daniel used his trucker contacts to locate people who could prove our innocence in the case." "And why didn't you tell us this from the beginning?" asked Rebecca. "Because my family was ashamed of owing so much to someone they considered inferior. Daniel was a trucker. We were landowners. Family pride wouldn't allow us to admit we had been saved by him." The revelation explained a lot about Mrs. Dorothy's behavior and the family's resistance to accepting that Daniel had any rights to the property. "When Daniel got sick, he came to me asking me to look after his families after he was gone. He said he would leave instructions, but that I should make sure you all were taken care of." "What kind of instructions?" asked Amanda. Douglas hesitated again before continuing. "He gave me 2 sealed letters, one to be delivered to Rebecca and another for you, Amanda. He said to deliver them only if you two met and managed to understand each other." "And you decided on your own that it was already time to deliver them?" asked Rebecca. "No. I decided to deliver them because I saw that you two had become a family. That's what Daniel hoped would happen." Douglas took 2 yellowed letters from his shirt pocket and handed one to each of them. Both women trembled as they held the last writings from Daniel addressed specifically to them. "I'll let you read in private. If you need me for anything, I'll be right here nearby." Rebecca and Amanda looked at each other, both nervous to discover what Daniel had written in his final letters. "Do you want to read them together or separately?" asked Rebecca. "Together. We've already shared so many of his secrets that one more won't make a difference." Rebecca opened her letter first. Daniel's handwriting was shaky, evidence it had been written during his illness. "My dear Rebecca, if you are reading this, it is because Douglas kept his promise, and you have met Amanda. I know you must be angry with me, and you have every right to be. I was too much of a coward to tell the truth while I was alive. You were always a wonderful wife and a perfect mother. Our children are my greatest joy and my greatest pride. If I failed you, it was because of my own weakness, never for a lack of love. When I met Amanda, I wasn't looking for another woman, but I fell in love in a way I couldn't control. I tried several times to end the relationship with her, to dedicate myself only to our family, but I always ended up going back. I know it's unfair to ask for forgiveness in a letter, but I hope one day you can forgive me. And I hope even more that you can find a way to care for the child Amanda is expecting. He or she is a brother or sister to our children and deserves love just as much as they do. The company I created can support the whole family if you work together. Amanda is a good and honest person. You will discover that if you give her a chance. Thank you for all the happy years you gave me. Thank you for our wonderful children, and forgive me for all the pain I caused. With eternal love, Daniel." Amanda read her letter next, tears already streaming down her face. "My dear Amanda, forgive me for having lied to you from the start. Forgive me for making you fall in love with a man who wasn't free to love. You deserved honesty from the first day, and I was too much of a coward to give that to you. I lied because I was afraid of losing the purest and truest love I have ever felt in my life. Rebecca is an extraordinary woman, and our children are wonderful kids. You will like them if you give them a chance, and I'm sure they will love you too. I know you are pregnant, and I know you must be afraid. But you are not alone. Rebecca has a bigger heart than you can imagine, and if you come together, you can create a family stronger than either of our separate families could be. The child you are expecting will be loved by many people. Our children will have a new brother or sister, and that is a blessing, not a problem. Use the company we built to support yourselves. Use the property to have a home. But most of all, use the love I know you have in your heart to care for the whole family I am leaving behind. Thank you for loving me when I didn't deserve it. Thank you for making my last years the happiest of my life. And forgive me for not having the courage to do the right thing while there was still time. With infinite love, Daniel. The two women cried together after reading the letters. It was painful and comforting at the same time to receive Daniel's final words, to discover his last thoughts and feelings. He truly believed we could become a family, said Amanda through her tears. And we did in a strange way, replied Rebecca. Perhaps he knew us better than we knew ourselves. Can you forgive him? Asked Amanda. I'm trying. And you? I'm trying too. I think it's easier to forgive when you understand he was suffering as much as we were. Ethan came running from the pasture, interrupting the two women's moment of reflection. Mom, there's a strange car coming our way. It looks like it's the police. Rebecca and Amanda stood up quickly, wiping their tears. An official car was indeed approaching on the dirt road. Do you think the Mitchells filed a lawsuit and sent a process server? Asked Amanda nervously. There's only one way to find out. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, please take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot as we're just starting out. Now continuing. The car stopped in front of the house, and a man in uniform got out, but he wasn't a process server. He was an Internal Revenue Service agent, accompanied by an accountant. Good afternoon, ladies. I'm Agent Albert Watson from the Internal Revenue Service, Oklahoma. We are investigating irregularities in the rural transport company registered at this address. Rebecca felt her blood run cold. Problems with the Internal Revenue Service were a complication she had never considered. What kind of irregularities? Asked Amanda, trying to stay calm. Discrepancies between declared income and actual bank activity. There are also questions about the change of partners without official communication. The agent explained that the company had been reported for tax evasion. Someone had informed the authorities that Daniel was moving much more money than he officially declared. Who made this report? Asked Rebecca. We cannot reveal the identity of the informant, but we need to examine all the company's documents and conduct a full assessment of the situation. The two women exchanged glances, immediately suspecting who could have made the report. The Mitchell family was escalating the conflict using increasingly heavy weapons. Ladies, we will need you to come to our office in Oklahoma City next week to provide clarification, and all company documentation must be submitted for analysis. After the agents left, Rebecca and Amanda were in a panic. Problems with the Internal Revenue Service could result in high fines, asset seizure, and even imprisonment in serious cases. Amanda, how did Daniel handle the company's tax matters? Honestly, I was never involved in that part. He said he had an accountant who took care of everything. What accountant? I don't know. He never introduced me or gave me the name. Once again, Daniel had left important matters unresolved, creating problems for the people he left behind. Douglas, who had witnessed the agent's visit from a distance, approached with a worried expression. Do you know where this report could have come from? We have a suspicion, said Rebecca. Your mother said she would use all necessary means to get us out of here. Mrs. Dorothy wouldn't do that. She can be tough, but she's not that vindictive. Then who else would know about the company's financial details? Douglas was thoughtful for a few minutes. There is one person who might have information about this. Vernon Mitchell, my cousin. He always envied Daniel and was furious when he learned he had a company registered on the family land. Where can we find this Vernon? He works at the business registry office in Oklahoma City. He has access to a lot of information that ordinary people don't. The discovery that there was a Mitchell with privileged access to business information completely changed the perspective of the situation. It wasn't just a family dispute anymore, but systematic persecution using official resources. "Douglas, can you talk to your cousin and find out exactly what he reported?" asked Amanda. "I can try, but he doesn't like me much. He always thought I was too weak to defend the family's interests." "Then you need to seem like you're on his side now," suggested Rebecca. "Pretend you regret giving us the property and that you want to help get it back." The strategy was risky, but it was the only way to find out exactly what they were facing with the tax issue. While Douglas tried to get information from his cousin, Rebecca and Amanda dedicated themselves to organizing all the company's documentation. They needed to be prepared for the meeting with the Internal Revenue Service. It was while sifting through Daniel's papers that they found clues about the mysterious accountant. There were payment receipts to someone named C. Parker, Accounting Services. "Rebecca, isn't this C. Parker the same Benjamin Parker who helped us with the legal matters?" "It's the same last name, but Benjamin is a lawyer, not an accountant." They decided to call Benjamin to clarify the doubt. The answer was revealing. "Rebecca, my brother Ryan is an accountant and works with some small businesses. It's possible Daniel was his client." Ryan Parker confirmed he had been Daniel's accountant for the last 3 years. When he learned of his death, he had tried to contact the family but couldn't locate anyone. "Ladies, the tax situation of Daniel's company is complicated. He didn't report several transactions and owes significant taxes." "How much does he owe?" asked Amanda, fearing the answer. "Approximately 40,000 rees in back taxes and penalties." The amount was frightening for 2 women who could barely keep the house running. 40,000 rees represented months of work. "But there is some good news," Ryan continued. "Daniel made some investments you don't know about. He bought shares in an agricultural cooperative that have appreciated greatly in the last 2 years." "What kind of shares?" "Shares of the Guthrie Agricultural Cooperative. Daniel invested part of the company's profits in shares of this cooperative. Today those shares are worth approximately 70,000 rees." The discovery of the shares completely changed the financial picture. If they could sell the shares, they could pay off the tax debts and still have money left over to invest in the company. "The problem is the shares are in Daniel's name, and to sell them you'll need court authorization as his heirs." Another bureaucratic complication, but this time with the potential for a positive solution. Ryan offered to regularize the entire company's tax situation and help with the share issue. In return, he would ask only for the usual accountant's fees, much less than what would be necessary to resolve problems with the Internal Revenue Service. "Why are you helping us?" asked Rebecca, suspicious of so much goodwill. "Because Daniel was my client and my friend. He always talked a lot about his family, and I know he would want me to look after you if something happened to him." "Did he talk about me?" asked Amanda. "He talked about both families, actually. He said he had dual responsibilities and was trying to find a way to take care of everyone." Once again, it became clear that Daniel really planned for his 2 families to meet and unite. It was as if he had engineered the entire situation to force the creation of one unique family from the 2 separate ones. With Ryan's help, they managed to postpone the meeting with the Internal Revenue Service until the documentation was organized. The process to sell the shares was initiated, and there was hope of resolving the tax issues without major losses. It was during this period of expectation that Douglas returned with information about his cousin's report. Vernon really was the one who reported the company to the Internal Revenue Service, but he didn't do it out of family vengeance. "Then why did he do it?" asked Amanda. "Out of envy and opportunism. He discovered that Daniel had a profitable company and was furious to learn that some random truck driver was making more money than him. Douglas explained that Vernon had tried to convince the family to take over Daniel's property to run the transport business themselves. When he failed to get support from the other relatives, he decided to destroy the company so no one could profit from it. Typical Vernon. If he can't have it, no one can." "Is there a way to reverse the report?" asked Rebecca. "No, the investigation is already underway, but I can testify that the report was made for personal reasons, not based on real knowledge of irregularities. Douglas's testimony could help, but it wouldn't solve the real tax problems that existed. Daniel really had evaded taxes, even if not intentionally. While they waited for the resolution of the tax issues, life on the ranch continued. Amanda's belly grew quickly with the twins, and the children were increasingly excited about the arrival of the new siblings. Ethan had taken on the role of main helper in the company's operations, accompanying Wayne on some trips and learning about the transport business. Emma Grace helped Amanda with household chores and demonstrated a natural maternal instinct. Noah and Oliver played around the property, enjoying the freedom of the countryside. "You know, Rebecca," said Amanda one afternoon while organizing baby clothes, "I never thought it would be possible to be happy after discovering the truth about Daniel. But here, with all of you, I feel at peace." "Me too. It's strange how a situation that should have torn us apart ended up bringing us together. I think Daniel knew we were alike. That's why he fell in love with both of us. Perhaps. Or perhaps he was just lucky that the two people he loved were able to understand each other." The conversation was interrupted when they heard cars approaching. Through the window, they saw several pickup trucks arriving at the same time. "Could it be the Internal Revenue Service again?" asked Amanda, worried. But when the cars stopped, who got out were Mrs. Dorothy, Vernon, and 3 other men they didn't know. "This doesn't look official," said Rebecca. "It looks more like a family confrontation." They went out to the porch, alert to any trouble. Ethan came running from the barn, where he was helping Wayne load the truck for a delivery. Mrs. Dorothy stepped forward, looking even more determined than on previous visits. "Rebecca Carter and Amanda Mitchell, the time has come for the two of you to be reasonable." "In what sense, Mrs. Dorothy?" asked Rebecca. "Vernon discovered that you owe a fortune to the Internal Revenue Service. Soon you'll lose everything anyway. It's better to accept our proposal while you can still walk away with something." Vernon approached with a smug smile. "Your company won't survive the tax investigation. It's better to accept a settlement now than to lose everything later." "What kind of settlement?" asked Amanda. $15,000 for each of you, plus moving expenses. It's a generous offer considering you'll have nothing in a few months." The proposal was insulting. 15,000 reais represented less than 6 months of the company's profit and was far below the property's actual value. "And if we don't accept?" asked Rebecca. "Then you'll learn that messing with the Mitchell family has consequences," said one of the unknown men. The threatening tone was clear, but Rebecca and Amanda weren't intimidated. They had been through too much to give up now. "You can take your threats and your insulting proposal and leave our property," said Rebecca firmly. "Our property," corrected Amanda, positioning herself beside Rebecca. Ethan approached his mother's, followed by Wayne, who had noticed the problem. The presence of the experienced truck driver changed the dynamics of the situation. Wayne was a big, strong man, known in the region for not taking any disrespect. "Is there a problem here, Mrs. Rebecca?" asked Wayne, looking directly at the unknown men. "No problem that can't be solved with these people leaving politely." Vernon realized the situation wasn't favorable for them and decided to back down. "You'll regret not accepting our offer," he said, heading back to the car. "We already regret many things, but defending our rights isn't one of them," replied Amanda. After the Mitchells left, Wayne suggested they consider seeking more formal legal protection. "These threats could escalate. I've seen similar situations end badly." "What kind of protection?" asked Rebecca. "Protective order, police report, those things. To have an official record if something happens." The suggestion made sense, but Rebecca was reluctant to involve the police. She had grown up distrustful of authorities and feared it would complicate the situation further. "Let's wait and see if they actually do something or if it was just intimidation," she decided. In the following days, small incidents began to happen. The property fence was found cut in 2 places. Some neighbors' animals appeared grazing on their land, having allegedly escaped through the holes in the fence. The water well started malfunctioning, as if someone had thrown rocks or debris inside. Wayne found nails scattered on the dirt road near the ranch, clearly placed to puncture truck tires. "These aren't coincidences," said Amanda. "They're trying to wear us down with small problems until we give up." "Then let's show them we aren't easy to wear down." Rebecca and Amanda began documenting every incident, taking photographs and noting dates and times. If they needed to involve the authorities later, they would have evidence. It was Mr. Harold who brought the most important information. "Girls, I need to tell you something. People are asking about you in town." "What kind of questions?" asked Rebecca. "Asking about your routines, when you leave, when you return, if you have protection." I didn't like the way they were asking at all. The information confirmed their suspicions that they were being watched and possibly being set up for some kind of more direct confrontation. "Mr. Harold, do you know these people who were asking?" "They weren't from around here. Outsiders, maybe from Oklahoma City, but they were well informed about your situation." Rebecca made the decision to seek out Benjamin Parker for legal advice. If the Mitchells were escalating the situation, she needed to be legally prepared. Benjamin got straight to the point when he heard about the threats and intimidation. "Rebecca, you need to file a formal complaint. This escalation could result in real violence." "But we don't have concrete proof it's them." "You have witnesses, photographs of the property damage, and a clear pattern of intimidation. It's enough for a protective order." Reluctantly, Rebecca agreed to make the official reports. The children's safety was more important than their aversion to involving authorities. The police report was filed in Guthrie, and a protective order was requested against Mrs. Dorothy, Vernon, and the other men who had made threats. The Mitchells' response was immediate and surprising. Instead of escalating further, they backed down completely. The intimidation stopped, and there were no more incidents on the property. "Why do you think they gave up so fast?" asked Amanda. "Perhaps because they realized we're not as vulnerable as they thought," suggested Rebecca. The truth was revealed by Douglas a few days later. "My family backed off because they found out you own shares in the agricultural cooperative. 40% of the land on our main farm is leased to that cooperative." "What does that mean?" asked Rebecca. "It means that if you want to, you can influence the cooperative's decisions about the leases. You have power over part of my family's livelihood." The irony of the situation was perfect. Daniel had invested precisely in the cooperative that leased land from the Mitchells. Without knowing it, he had given their families a way to protect themselves against the persecution of the Mitchells themselves. "We don't want to harm anyone," said Amanda. "We just want to live in peace." "I know, and now the whole family knows it too. That's why they stopped the intimidation." The situation had balanced out in an unexpected way. The Mitchells could no longer pressure them openly, and Rebecca and Amanda had enough influence to protect themselves. With the threats ceased, and the tax issues moving toward resolution, life on the ranch finally found a calmer rhythm. The cooperative shares were sold for a price even higher than Ryan had estimated. Besides paying off all the back taxes, there was money left to invest in expanding the business and renovating the house. Rebecca and Amanda decided to build an addition to the main house to better accommodate the entire growing family. The project included 2 rooms for the twin babies and a larger room for the older children. The transport company also grew. With more capital available, they bought a second truck and hired another driver. Contracts multiplied, and the monthly income was becoming substantial. "I never imagined I'd be a businesswoman one day," commented Rebecca, reviewing the financial spreadsheets. "Me neither, but I like this feeling of independence." Daniel created something bigger than he ever imagined. It was in the 7th month of Amanda's pregnancy that the last big revelation happened. Linda Harrison, the woman who received financial help from Daniel, showed up at the ranch accompanied by a teenager of about 15. "Mrs. Rebecca, I need to tell you something I should have said from the beginning." Rebecca already had an intuition of what was coming, but she still prepared herself for another painful discovery about Daniel's secret life. "This is my daughter, Ashley. She is Daniel's daughter too." The revelation wasn't as shocking as it would have been months before. After so many discoveries, Rebecca had developed a kind of immunity to surprises about Daniel. "How long have you known?" she asked. "Since always. But Daniel made me promise I would never tell anyone. He said he already had too many responsibilities and that it would be better if she grew up thinking her father was my ex-husband." Ashley was a shy girl with physical features that clearly resembled Daniel. She had grown up knowing that Uncle Daniel, who helped the family, was actually her biological father. "Why did you decide to tell us now?" asked Amanda. "Because we heard that you are building a united family with all of his children. Ashley deserves to be part of that too, if you'll allow it." The teenager looked at Ethan, Emma Grace, Noah, and Oliver with curiosity mixed with shyness. It was evident she wanted to get to know the siblings but didn't know how to approach them. "Ashley, would you like to be part of our family?" Rebecca asked directly. "Yes, ma'am. I've always wanted to have siblings." Ethan was the first to approach his newly discovered sister. "Do you like to read? I have some cool books I can lend you." The simplicity of Ethan's approach broke the ice immediately. Within minutes, Ashley was talking naturally with all the siblings. "Linda, you can bring Ashley here whenever you want. She's always welcome." "Actually, I wanted to suggest something different. How about if she came to live here? I'm getting older, and it would be better for her to have a large, structured family." The proposal was tempting, but Rebecca wanted to be sure it was what Ashley really wanted. "Ashley, would you like to live here with us?" "Very much. I've always felt a bit lonely at home. There are so many people here, it must be fun." Ashley's integration into the family was surprisingly easy. She quickly adapted to the household routine and proved to be a valuable help with the younger children. With Amanda close to giving birth, Ashley's presence was especially important. The teenager had experience caring for small children and naturally took on some household responsibilities. "It's funny how Daniel managed to raise 5 wonderful children, even though he was so complicated," Amanda commented. "Maybe the children took after the best in him." Or perhaps love, even imperfect, is enough to raise good people. The birth of the twins happened on a Sunday morning, 3 weeks earlier than expected. Amanda started feeling contractions during breakfast, and Rebecca immediately knew it was time. "Ashley, look after the children. Wayne, can you take us to the hospital in Guthrie?" The trip to the hospital was tense, but Amanda remained calm the entire way. Rebecca held her hand, offering support and reassurance. The babies were born an hour apart. The first, a boy they decided to name Lucas, was born without complications. The second, a girl who was named Emily, arrived after a more difficult labor. When Rebecca returned from the hospital with Amanda and the babies, she found the house all decorated. The children had organized themselves with Ashley to prepare a welcome party for the new siblings. "Mom, now we're a real family with babies and everything," said Emma Grace, beaming. "We were already a real family, dear. Now we're a bigger family." Ethan was holding Lucas carefully, showing impressive maturity for an 11-year-old boy. Noah and Oliver were competing to see who could make Emily smile first. Ashley was helping Amanda organize the baby's things. "Daniel would be proud to see this whole family together," said Wayne, who had practically become a family member. "I think he always wanted this," replied Rebecca. "He just didn't know how to make it happen while he was alive." The following months were an adaptation to the new family dynamic. Rebecca and Amanda took turns caring for the twins, while Ashley helped with the older children. The company continued to prosper, providing financial stability for the whole family. It was at Lucas and Emily's first birthday party that Rebecca had an important revelation about herself and the entire journey they had been on. She was watching the party in the backyard of the house, seeing all the children playing together, Amanda caring for the twins naturally, Wayne helping to set up the tables, Mr. Harold telling stories to the boys, Linda chatting animatedly with some neighbors who had been invited. This was a family that could never have existed under normal circumstances, a family built on lies and secrets, yet one that had become more solid and united than many traditional families. "What are you thinking about?" asked Amanda, approaching with Lucas in her arms. "I was thinking that Daniel achieved something he himself never imagined. He created a perfect family, but it was only possible because he was no longer here to complicate things. Do you think he planned all this? Not consciously, but I think deep down he knew his lies would eventually catch up and that the people he loved would have to deal with the consequences together. And we managed to handle it better than he imagined. We managed to handle it better than we ourselves imagined." Ethan approached the two of them, carrying Emily. "Mom, Amanda, I wanted to tell you something. Go ahead, son. I know my father did wrong things, and I know you both suffered a lot because of him. But I wanted to thank him, because if he hadn't done all this, I would never have met Amanda, nor Ashley, nor the babies. Our family wouldn't exist." Ethan's maturity and wisdom deeply touched the two women. At 12 years old, he had understood something it would take many adults years to grasp. Sometimes, the best things in life come from the most difficult situations. "Ethan, you're right," said Rebecca. "Maybe it's time to stop seeing all this as the result of your father's mistakes and start seeing it as the gift he left for us." "A very complicated gift to unwrap," added Amanda, laughing. "But one that was worth it when we finally managed," Ethan finished, smiling. The conversation was interrupted when Douglas arrived at the party, bringing his own family. In recent months, he had become a true friend, helping with legal matters and mediating occasional conflicts with other members of his family. "Rebecca, Amanda, I brought news you'll like to hear." "What news?" they asked together. "My mother has officially decided to give up any claim to the property. She recognized that you've created something beautiful here and that it would be wrong to destroy it." The news was met with relief, but without great surprise. Mrs. Dorothy had softened her behavior during recent visits, even showing affection for the children. "And there's more," Douglas continued. "The family has decided to officially make you the preferred transportation suppliers for all our businesses. It's a big contract. It will guarantee work for you for years." The offer represented not only financial security, but also recognition and acceptance by the local community. The Mitchell family was publicly endorsing the legitimacy of their company. "Why this big change?" asked Amanda. "Because you've proven to be serious, hard-working and honest people, and because our family realized that Daniel had good taste in choosing people." For the rest of the party, Rebecca reflected on all the transformations that had happened in just over a year. From a desperate widow with no prospects, she had become a prosperous businesswoman and matriarch of a large, close-knit family. Amanda had transformed her pain into strength, becoming not only a dedicated mother, but also a competent business partner and a true friend. The children had gained more than siblings. They had gained a network of support and love that would sustain them for a lifetime. "You know what the best part of all this is?" said Amanda as they put the children to sleep that night. "What?" "The three of us are better together than any of us are apart." Daniel may have been a confused man, but he knew how to choose people who would complement each other perfectly. Rebecca looked around the house, listening to the soft noise of the children settling into their rooms, the babies breathing peacefully in the crib, Ashley whispering with Emma Grace about plans for the next day. "You're right. We are a family that shouldn't exist, but that exists better than any traditional family I know." "And now, what are our plans for the future?" "To keep growing, the company, the family, our friendship, to keep proving that love can overcome any complication. Even though it started with lies. Especially because it started with lies, it means we managed to build truth on top of falsehood. That's a superpower." They laughed together, a laugh that symbolized not just amusement, but liberation. Liberation from the pain, the resentment, the anger, and the confusion that had dominated their lives for so long. 5 years later, the transport company had expanded to include logistics and storage services. The property had been enlarged with new buildings and had become a small rural commercial complex. Ethan, now 17, was preparing to study business administration and take over part of the family business. Emma Grace, at 13, showed a talent for finance and helped Amanda with the accounting. Ashley, at 20, had become a teacher like Amanda and taught at the local school. Noah, at 11, was interested in mechanics and spent afternoons helping Wayne with truck maintenance. Oliver, now 7, talked about being a businessman like the mums when he grew up. Lucas and Emily, at 5, were cheerful and affectionate children who naturally called both Rebecca and Amanda Mom, with no confusion about relationships or family hierarchy. The family had become a reference in the region as an example of family entrepreneurship and overcoming adversity. Rebecca and Amanda occasionally gave talks at schools and business associations about how to turn adversity into opportunity. "Do you think Daniel imagined all this would turn out so well?" asked Ashley during a family dinner. "I think he hoped it would, but didn't know how," replied Rebecca. "He left us all the pieces of the puzzle, but didn't know how to put it together while he was alive, added Amanda. Maybe because some things only work when the right people meet at the right time, suggested Ethan, always philosophical. Or maybe because true love always finds a way to work, even when everything is wrong at the beginning, said Emma Grace. The children had developed a mature and healthy understanding of their father's complicated history. They knew he had made serious mistakes, but they also knew those mistakes had led to the creation of something beautiful and special. That night, after all the children had gone to sleep, Rebecca and Amanda sat on the porch as they had done every night for years. It was their time for conversation and reflection, a tradition that had become sacred between them. Rebecca, can I ask a question I've always wanted to ask? Of course. Have you ever regretted agreeing to share all this with me? Your life would have been simpler if you had sent me away that first day. Rebecca thought carefully before answering. Amanda, my life would have been simpler, but it would have been infinitely poorer. I would have raised my children alone, struggled with financial difficulties alone, faced the Mitchells alone. I might have survived, but I would never have thrived. And you're not jealous that I was the great love of Daniel's life? Do you really think you were the great love of his life? From what he wrote in the letters, it seemed so. Amanda, you were the passion of his life, I was the love of his life. There's a difference between the two things. The distinction was perceptive and touched Amanda deeply. How did you come to that conclusion? Because passion makes you hide, lie, complicate. Love makes you care, protect, build. Daniel complicated everything to be with you because it was passion, but he built a family with me because it was love. And both were true. Both were true. And that's why we were able to build something together, because we weren't competing over lies. We were uniting different truths. You are very wise, Rebecca. We are both wise. We learned to turn pain into wisdom. The silence that followed was comforting, full of mutual understanding and peace. They watched the stars, listening to the night sounds of the countryside that had become the soundtrack of their lives. Rebecca, there's something I never told you. What? In his last days, Daniel was delirious a lot. But there was a moment of clarity when he told me something very clearly. What did he say? He said you were the best person he knew, and that if I ever needed help, I should look for you. He said you had a heart big enough to care for any child, even if it wasn't your own. Tears came to Rebecca's eyes. After so many years, it was still moving to discover that Daniel truly knew and valued her. He was right about you, Amanda continued. You took care of me, of my children, of his daughter with another woman. Your heart really is big enough for any child. Our heart, Amanda. We both did that together. It's true. We're a good team. We're the best team. They laughed, hugged, and went inside to sleep. Another day had ended for the family that shouldn't exist, but that worked better than any traditional family they knew. The next morning began another week of work, study, caring for the children, and building the future they had chosen to create together. The company was negotiating contracts with neighboring towns. Ethan was studying for his college entrance exams. Emma Grace was organizing a school play. Ashley was dating a boy from town and thinking about marriage. Noah was building a little car with old parts he found in the barn. Oliver was learning to read with the help of Lucas and Emily. Life went on, full and rich, built on solid foundations of love, work, and determination. And sometimes, when the wind blew a certain way through the house curtains, or when the sun set creating specific shadows in the yard, Rebecca and Amanda felt a familiar presence nearby. A presence that seemed proud of what they had built, at peace with the complications it had created, grateful to have been forgiven through the right choices the people he loved made after he was gone. Daniel had passed away, but his legacy had become something much larger and more beautiful than he could ever have imagined. A family united by love, not by convention. A family that had turned painful secrets into joyful traditions. A family that had proven there is no one right way to love, only sincere ways to care for each other. And on that ranch in Guthrie, where it had all begun with ruins and hopelessness, now grew one of the happiest and most prosperous families in the entire region. A family that was living proof that love, even when imperfect, always finds a way to create beauty. End of story. Now tell us what you thought of the story and where you're listening from. If you have something to share with us, leave it in the comments with sincere words. Do you believe Rebecca and Amanda made the right decisions? We would love to read your opinion. Thank you so much for your company. Don't forget to leave your like and, most importantly, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss other moving stories.